do an activity together. If you are sharing pictures on social media, please tag us with the hashtag at @SeeBrookPaint, and that's going to be SEE Brook.
Okay, it actually looks like we're just live now.
What?
We're just live now.
Okay, we're just live now.
Yes.
So, welcome to today's painting class. We are so excited to be painting a floral painting today. I am so thrilled that we're doing this for Mother's Day this weekend. And I know so many of you are painting with your moms and doing a fun little mommy-daughter date. I love that. I can't wait to see all of your pictures. This year is super special for me because it's my first Mother's Day as a mom, so we're celebrating this weekend. I want to introduce you to my team that I have here behind the camera. I have Brandy.
Hi guys.
And Lydia.
Hey everyone.
So they're going to be managing the camera and answering all your questions and handling the technical stuff. So they'll be off camera, but if you hear their voices, now you have a face.
And if you have any questions, just type them in the chat bar and we'll do our best to get to all of them.
Perfect, thanks y'all. So today we're using acrylic paint. This is a fast drying water-based medium. If you have something else on hand and you're comfortable using that, then go for it. If you're painting with watercolor or oil, it's going to be a little bit different, but I'm sure you can make it work. So I'll try and give you flexible tips and tricks as we go. So if you don't have the exact colors, I'll give you alternatives that you can use. I am using 3 paintbrushes today. So I have a large angle shader, a medium round, and a small round. If you have these 3, or really just even a large and a small, you should be good. If you have more paintbrushes on hand that you want to use, feel free to intermix them as we're going. But I'll try and give you a heads up of when to switch brushes and when to clean them. So this is going to be a step-by-step class. So we're going to be doing this floral piece, and I'm just going to guide you through the whole thing in a really beginner's fashion. So we have people that have never touched a paintbrush before and professionals. So just so you know, I'll be going pretty fast because there's a lot of ground to cover, but you will have access to this recording immediately following the class. So it will be available through the same link. If it's not up right at 4 p.m., just give it like 10 minutes to refresh, and the whole class will be there so you can hit pause and rewind and work at your own pace. So, any other questions of people commenting right now?
We have people from España, Spain.
Oh my goodness!
Australia, Oregon, Pakistan, all over the place.
Oh my gosh.
So cool.
It's
Thank
so
you guys
cool.
for being here.
Yes, thank you. We're so excited.
I'm sorry if you're hearing a buzzing sound. I'm not sure what that's about, but hopefully it's not too distracting.
I think we'll give like 1 more minute to go ahead for everybody to join in since we're coming from all over the place, and then we're gonna just dive right into it. So as you're setting up your palettes, I would go ahead and pick a color for your underpainting. This is going to be like the sketch of your painting. For this, I'm gonna use cobalt blue. Actually, I'm gonna mix it up. I normally use cobalt blue, but I'm gonna use I'll use Indian yellow for this one. So I want to have some of this like orange shades coming out. So I'm just gonna start with, this is called Indian yellow in my set, but if you have an orange or a medium cadmium orange or something like that on hand, go ahead and use that. If you wanna use blue, you can use that as well. The underpainting doesn't matter as much because most of it gets covered up. Acrylic paint dries really quickly, so you can layer it, and you do have to work kind of fast with it, but the blessing of acrylic paint is you can layer on top of it and you can't make a mistake. So just go ahead and relax, and everybody take a deep breath, and we're gonna get started. So I'm just gonna squirt a little bit of this Indian yellow onto my palette. And today I'm gonna use water as my medium. Since this is a water-based paint, you can thin it out and make it more fluid with water. If you're using oil or a different medium, especially oil, you'll need to use like a linseed oil or something like that. You can't use water with oils. I'm gonna start with my round paintbrush. This is my favorite paintbrush of all time, so I'll probably end up doing the majority of the painting in this. And I'm just gonna thin it out a little bit, pull from the side, and add a little bit of water to increase the fluidity of it. And I'm gonna start just by drawing the base. So I'm gonna do 2 vertical lines, and I always like to use my paintbrush as a measuring tool. So I'm gonna come over about 3 inches. I'm just gonna draw a dot. And then from there, that turned into more of a line. Come over again about the same distance, 3 inches, draw another dot, turn that into a line. And from here, I'm just gonna draw a vertical line up, about halfway up the canvas. From there, I'm just gonna start roughly sketching in where my flowers are going to go. So I'll start with this large Gerber daisy in the front, and I'm just gonna draw a really rough circle, and I want this to be kind of on the right side. So large circle for that Gerber daisy, and it can be kind of rough, it doesn't have to be perfect. Then I'm gonna draw a smaller one. So we almost just did like an 8. Smaller little circle for that ranuncula. Then there's a large peony on top of that. So this is just going to be a little bit bigger. Then off to the left of this Gerber daisy, I'm gonna draw another smaller circle for this ranuncula. Another peony. So we're kind of just mapping out our bouquet right now. If you are finding your paint's not moving very fluid, you can just add a little bit of water to it. I'm going to draw another large circle here for another peony. And then a half circle going off the canvas to fill in this gap, and another half circle here. Then I want to fill in this corner with anemones. So what I'm going to do is just start with a smaller circle. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap. So start with a smaller circle for the center of them. I'm doing 3. And then I'm just gonna kind of draw diagonal lines with a little curve on it. Diagonal line coming out from the center, the little curve on it. Diagonal line coming from the center, and then curve it at the top. Diagonal line from the center. These are kind of overlapping here, so I'm not going to do another one on that side. Whoops. Diagonal line, curve it at the top. Diagonal line, curve it. The great thing, because acrylic paint dries so quickly, if you make a little bit of mistake, you can just go right over it. And you can change those flowers up as we go and perfect them. Do a little bit more of this. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna start adding in my greenery. So I'm gonna start with this like green that's cascading on the right side. And the way I'm going to do that is just drawing kind of an arched line. and then drawing little lines coming, start at the center point, and then kind of pull and lift your paintbrush away from the canvas so you can bring it to a nice point. And just go all the way up on that one. So there's this beautiful negative space here that I want to fill in with another one of those greens. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to draw kind of a curved line that's cascading down here. And then start at the center, at the spine, and then just pull up and away from the canvas as I back my way up this green. Whenever I'm doing or painting a floral arrangement, I love using greens to fill in gaps on my canvas or spots that are kind of looking bare. So if you have a hole somewhere, you can use greens to fill those in. All right, so after I've done those two, I'm going to use I'm still using my small paintbrush, and I'm going to do little groups of leaves, clusters of them, filling in around the canvas. So for these, I like to say you're going to do a parentheses shape, but you want to bring it down to a point. So you kind of make it look elegant and not just like clunky. So I'll start on this right side here. And I'm going to do one parentheses, bring it down to a point, and then you're just going to close that and bring it down to a point. So you open parentheses, bring it to a point, close it, and bring it to a point. That will help make your floral look very elegant and natural. So I want to fill in here with one more, so I'm coming kind of in between these two leaves. And I'm going to do a parentheses, bring it to a point, parentheses, bring it to a point, and then you can draw your stems to connect it. So the same thing I'm going to do on the left side here. I'm going to just do a parentheses, bring it down to a point, and then close that off. And then I like to do groups of threes for my leaves. So I think odd numbers look really great. So I'm going to do another one kind of going off to the left. You could stagger it and do it a little bit lower. So parentheses and then just close that. And then one in the center. And then you can just connect it with little stems. So the same thing at the top. I'm going to do a parentheses and then close it. And then have one kind of going off to the left. You can get really funky with these and have them kind of going every which way. We're going to keep this one.
How are y'all doing for time? Some people are asking to slow down a little bit.
So what I'm going to do, as soon as I get through this underpainting, I'll give you a little break to catch up.
Perfect.
And it will take a break about halfway through as well. So I'll try and get ahead of you and then give you a minute to catch up so we can get through the whole painting. All right, so I'm going to do another one in the center. If it helps too with these little clusters of leaves, you can draw the stem first, and then you can draw the parentheses kind of coming off of that. That's just like the most basic shape that I can break it down into. So I'm gonna do the same thing. You just kind of do this little curved line, and then I think that what makes them look really good is just making sure they're coming to a point. And then I want one kind of going in the center, going off of the canvas. From here, I'm going to draw the eucalyptus. So I'm going to just draw a curved line for the spine, and then take the side of my paintbrush and just do these little dashes going off of the canvas. So those are like 1-inch lines that I just lay my paintbrush down and skip a space and just go off of the canvas with it. So I'm going to do that same thing. I'll do one more eucalyptus here to demonstrate that again. So I'm going to draw the spine coming down, and then I use the side of my brush and I just do these little like 1-inch lines going down the spine. Okay, so from there we're going to take a break and we'll let y'all catch up for a second. Okay, so as y'all are working on this underpainting, I want you to be thinking about what color you want to use for the background of your floral. So I'm going to use an aqua for this. So I'll be using like a phthalo green and a titanium white mix. But if you have a space in your house, or you know who you're giving this painting to, and you know that their favorite color is pink, then go ahead and use pink for the background. So you can change things up. I love to see you get creative. I don't know if I mentioned this, but as you're painting, if you'll tag us at Seabrook Green and then hashtag Seabrook Paint, SEEBROOKE paint.
I'll type that down.
Yeah, Brandy will add that to the comments. So tag us as you're going. We'd love to see it. And I would love to see your creativity and changes that you make to these paintings, because I know everyone is going to bring their own unique voice to it. So I'm going to teach this with an aqua background, but if you have another idea that you would like to do, please go ahead and do it. And once you're finished with your sketch of your bouquet, you can put your medium brush away and just get your largest paintbrush that you have.
And we have no way, people are asking if we can put the original side by side. We can't do that, but if you pull up our Instagram picture or the PDF, it has the picture of the original painting for you there. Our easel, I don't think there's any way to set them side by side, unfortunately.
Okay, so I'm going to use my large round paintbrush. Large paintbrush. This one's a flat angle shader actually, so reach for the largest paintbrush you have. And I'm going to add phthalo green and titanium white to my palette. Okay, so I'm going to mix a little bit of phthalo green with titanium white, and I'm just going to lighten it up a little bit, and this is going to be the color that I use for my background. So we're going to need a little bit more of this color since we're covering so much space on the canvas. If you have just like an aqua on hand that you want to use, you could use that. People have any questions, I guess, about colors for the background, or is anyone doing anything different? So I'm mixing. If you have a palette knife on hand, you could use a palette knife to mix. I always mix with my paintbrushes. But some artists prefer to use a palette knife. I'm just gonna add a little bit of water to this to get it really nice and fluid. And then with this color, I'm just gonna fill in all around my bouquet. So anywhere there's this negative space, I wanna fill in with this aqua color. And I recommend adding a little bit of water to your paint so that you're not, if you're seeing like white speckles on your canvas and you're having trouble getting coverage, you could need to use more paint and a little bit of water that will help. So we want to fill in everything. You don't want to see a bunch of white speckles.
Stephanie's trying a chartreuse background.
Oh, pretty. I love chartreuse. I can't wait to see that. Be sure to tag us so we can see it. This is such a happy bouquet. I think we all need a little bit more joy nowadays, so all the colors. As you're painting this, if you want to go ahead and paint the sides of your canvas, that will make it kind of look like a gallery wrapped canvas so that the edges are fully done. You could do that at the end as well, but I do find it easier to do that as you're going rather than trying to match the color afterwards, especially if you are mixing paint. It's a lot easier to do it as you go.
Someone said, I love this background in your paintings. I'm so surprised it's from a green color. It does look very like aqua. It's surprising how it's just green and white, right? Make that bright aqua color.
Well, phthalo green, if it's a blue shade, it will have that. It really depends on the paint that you're using too.
Someone actually just said, any recommendations for watercolors, I guess, for your background?
Well, I mean, you could leave the background white if you have paper, like that would look really pretty, or if you're doing it on canvas. Just like a really pretty light aqua wash, just add a lot of water to it to water it down. I think that would be really pretty.
And do you ever paint the background first? Is there a reason for doing it second?
I don't. I think it's because I like to just see a blank canvas and really map out what I'm doing, and I don't like wasting paint. So I would find it to be kind of a waste to cover the whole thing with one color and then paint on top of it. So that's probably why.
And you can also kind of use that as an eraser. Like if you decide to erase a flower.
That's a good point.
You can go in with your background color.
It's a tool to edit.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, eraser.
And then, well, no, that's exactly right. Because what I'm doing right now is I kind of go in, like even on this line that's like very messy. Now with my background color, I like to go in and edit and clean it up and kind of tighten it, and you can refine shapes that way. Find new discoveries of negative space. I think too, as you paint more and more, you'll find, I truly don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I know there are artists that would have a totally different process than I would, and I think that's what makes painting so fun. We all have a unique voice, and you find what you're comfortable with and what works for you. So right now, I'm just really starting to clean up these leaves, going in and cutting in between them with the paint. Part always takes a while. The funny thing is, I just said I don't like to waste paint, and sometimes as I'm designing a painting, so like my normal process, I may start with the background one color, and by the time I get to the end of it, I'm like, that doesn't look right, and I'll change the whole thing.
That is the beauty of acrylic paint.
Yeah.
You can go back and change it easily.
Well, and I think too, like, typically my style is not realistic, so like I'm more thinking about color theory and colors that go together as I'm painting, more so than like copying something. So that process can look a little bit different. Like I was saying, I may paint the whole background aqua and then be like, I think this painting would look better with a pink background, and I'll just change the whole thing. You don't have to worry about going in between all of these, because I'm gonna go in with a darker cobalt blue in there for where like our shadows would be. But I would try and just get as close as you can to these edges on this background color, the edges of your yellow, so you don't have a bunch of gaps to fill in later. Okay.
And someone's wondering how to avoid it looking like brush strokes on your background.
You probably need more paint on your brush and maybe a little bit of water, but I would question why you want to get rid of the brush strokes, because I think that's part of the story, and I love seeing, we always called that a painterly style, so sometimes I'll go in and intentionally dry brush and kind of add texture to my background rather than having it completely smooth. So I would think about that. I can't see your painting, but my guess is those brush strokes look beautiful. Okay, once you have filled in your background, we're gonna go ahead and take a break from this color. So we're gonna wash off our paintbrush and move on to our flowers. And you can always touch up the background later on, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect.
Oh, do you initially paint from live paints, or are they from your imagination?
Both. Can we zoom out for 1 second?
Yeah.
So today, my husband brought me a beautiful bouquet from a local florist here in Greenville called Petals. And I will definitely be painting from that one from life once I have the chance. But a lot of times it's kind of a mesh of imagination or photographs or floral books that I have on hand. But when I do have the privilege of having a floral arrangement, I love painting from life. I think that's the best. I have to brag on my husband a little bit.
He was very worried about getting his Mother's Day gift.
Okay. What time? What's our time?
We're at 2:34.
All right, so we're gonna keep moving forward. So wash your paintbrush off and go ahead and grab your, well, actually let's stick with our large paintbrush right now for our background colors, and then we'll switch to the smaller brush.
And if y'all, don't worry if you can't keep up or need to pause and come back, you can still watch the video after class, so don't worry about that.
And you'll have access to the live video immediately. So the link that you're watching this on is the same. So we've gotten a lot of emails about how do you access the link after the class. It's the same link. So as soon as this is finished, you'll have access to go back and pause and rewind. All right, so when you're washing your brush off, be sure you go from side to side on the bottom of it. Don't go straight down and mess it around. That'll ruin the bristles on it. Just a little tip. And then I always test it on a paper towel so that I can make sure all of the color is off of my brush. So you can see there was still a little bit of aqua, and I like to see that it came clean. All right, so next, I'm gonna switch to rose. So we have a lot of questions about this color because there are many different names. If you have a hot pink on hand, or a magenta, or a light magenta, or really whatever shade of pink you want to use, that will work beautifully. So grab your hot pink, and we're going to add that to our palette, and I'm going to mix it with titanium white, so be sure that you have that as well. Okay. So I'm going to start with my peonies. I'm grabbing some of this titanium white, and I put it in the center of my palette, and then I grab from the side of my rose or my pink color, and I'm just going to mix it to create another shade of pink. I still have a little bit of water on my brush to keep it fluid and moving. For these, I'm just going to start coloring in the flowers that are pink. So with my brush, I'm going to do this kind of round brush stroke right now. So I'm filling it in a circular pattern. And you can go ahead and kind of break out of that yellow line. For the longest time when I was painting flowers, like when I was first starting out, I would keep them like in this circle, kind of in a tight circle with an outline around it. And then as I watched and looked at flowers more, and I think learning how to draw and learning how to paint is really learning how to see. And when I studied flowers more, I realized, okay, why have I been drawing these in circles? Like the petals break outside of those circles, so you want them to be uneven on the edges. Like all of your petals aren't stuck in a tight bud. I guess unless it's a really tight bud, but these are supposed to be blossomed already.
Someone doesn't have cobalt blue. How can it be mixed? They have ultramarine blue and cerulean blue.
Just use ultramarine blue when we get to that point. You'll be fine with that. All right, so I'm just filling in these pink flowers. I'm gonna do this one going off the edge as well. I am blowing through the paint today, I don't know why. I can't keep enough on my palette. All right, so you can see that there are different shades of pink right now. That's totally fine. That's just our base color. So we will layer on top of those as they dry and kind of adjust the color as we want it to be. Right now I just am getting that base color down.
That's so funny. Liz said, I applaud you for painting in nice colors. I'd be covered in paint by now.
I may be covered in paint by the end.
I know, we were kind of worried about that actually. So, fingers crossed.
Once I have gotten the base of my pink flowers, I have 4 of them. If you want more than that, you could add more pink. I'm gonna wash my brush off, so I'm just getting that base color down. I know after this class, I'll be like, inspect this shirt, and then I'm gonna be like, ah, there's like a dab of, oh, fingers crossed that doesn't happen actually.
Acrylic paint comes out pretty easily though, doesn't it? No?
Depends. It depends how quickly you catch it. Sometimes it will come out. I think it depends on the fabric too, but. Okay, so from there, I am going to grab my scarlet red and Naples yellow. So I have scarlet red and yellow. If you have a cadmium yellow medium, or just like a medium yellow, kind of like a golden yellow color, go ahead and add that, and then whatever red you have on hand. Cleaned my brush off really well. I'm just testing to make sure that all of that pink color is out. And then I'm going to start with this Gerber daisy here.
What color yellow is that again?
This is Naples yellow.
Okay.
So I'm just going to draw a dot kind of in the center. And then for this flower, instead of doing that circular brush stroke, I'm going to think of it almost like a bike wheel. And you're just going to come out from the center and just do your brush strokes that way. For this, we want to be able to see our brush strokes and for them to follow the natural pattern of the flower that we're trying to paint. So I'm coming out past that first round circle that I drew to begin. Just gives us a good base. That same color, I'm going to add just a little dab in the center of my peonies as well. And then I'm going to mix some of the red color with that yellow, Naples yellow.
Did you mix that with something?
Yes, so this is Naples yellow and red, scarlet red, but if you have a primary red on hand, that will work just as well.
But you used just the plain yellow at first, right?
Yes, this was just straight Naples yellow. And I did the Gerber daisy here and then a dot in the center of my peonies. And now I mixed Naples yellow and scarlet red. And I'm going to use this as the base for these ranunculus. For these flowers, I'm going in that same circular pattern. And I'm covering up that yellow border. as I go, a lot of times my flowers grow, they get bigger and bigger. With that color, I'm just going to add a dab in the center of my Gerber daisy. And then I'm going to wash my brush.
I'll zoom in on the painting really quick because some people are asking just about your brush strokes. Oops.
You're really going to start to see, I'll touch on that for a second. Right now, you can't really see the brush strokes because it all kind of has blended together. But as we go and layer on top of it, those strokes will become illuminated. So right now, you're not going to see all of them.
It's not quite enough paint on there yet.
And it's not really as noticeable. From there, I'm going to start adding in my blue. So I'm going to add blue in all of these little shadows, and I'm going to use it as the base of my water for my base. So I'm using cobalt blue. If you have, I think someone said cerulean blue or ultramarine or any shade of blue that you have, a primary blue will work. I'm just using cobalt today. So grab your blue next. And add that to my palette. And if you need to restock your titanium white, I always mix titanium white, so I would always have that on my palette.
Should we show how big your titanium white chart? We did that in our haul video.
My first one flying through the air. Brady is trying to make me work. Okay, so here's
I just think it's funny how big
here's my titanium white that I keep on hand. This one is golden that I'm using because I ran out of the small tubes. This will last me a while.
Yeah, well, it's amazing because you have to mix white with everything, how much you go through.
That's actually like heavy. Okay, so I'm going to use cobalt blue, and actually I'll mix it with a tiny bit of my titanium white right now. Mixing with white also increases the opaqueness of your paint, so it won't be as see-through if you mix some white into it. All right, so I'm gonna just fill in this whole base with this blue color. It's hard to see what I'm doing standing from the side. I'm like, I hope everything is straight.
Oh, yeah, because you have to stand up.
Yeah. So I like to see a little bit of those borders, but you could cover them completely up if you don't want to see it, but I'm going to let a little bit of it shine through. Now with this same color, I'm going to start filling in these little gaps in between flowers.
Brooke, you have to see this setup. People's setups are so cute.
Oh my word, Labella Designs, that's adorable. Is that what it says?
Yeah, we love seeing y'all setups.
That's so cute. After I have filled in the water and then some of the gaps in between my flowers, I'm going to switch to my smaller paintbrush, and I'm still going to use the cobalt blue, and we're going to work on our anemones.
Is this the medium round or the small round?
The medium round, sorry, I think I said small and medium. So mine is number 8. All right, so for these anemones, I'm gonna just draw or fill in the little center point on these flowers. This one's gonna be anemone up here too, so that my center's kind of going off the canvas. So first just start by filling in that center. And then I'm going to go over my petals again. So this is with the cobalt blue. Starting at the center point, I'm kind of drawing this diagonal line, and then it kind of curves at the top, and then coming back with a diagonal line towards the center. Diagonal line, kind of curve it. Diagonal line, curve it at the top.
Someone said, what's the difference between ultramarine and cobalt blue? Recommended to buy both, but they look exactly the same to me.
Ultramarine and cobalt. So cobalt, I think a lot of times with colors, if you add a little bit of white to them, you'll see how different the color actually is. Ultramarine blue is going to go a lot more red, so you'll get a lot more of like a periwinkle color if you mix white into it, where cobalt blue I think is closer to true blue.
Mm-hmm.
But that all can vary too depending on the brand of paint that you have. So it's hard to say, but I think you can really start to see the color if you add white into it. It'll show how much they vary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never realized that blue could have red undertones. It's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if undertones is the right word.
Yeah, I think so. So for this one, I'm kind of drawing these diagonal lines with a little curve, and then most of the petals for this anemone are going to be off the canvas, so it's really just two petals really that are showing. Then once I have outlined these, I want to go in with titanium white and cobalt blue. So this is really, really, really light cobalt blue. I mean, it's mostly white with just like a touch of cobalt in it. And I'm just going to fill in these petals. So fill in your petals with your titanium white and cobalt blue. If you have another blue on hand, like cerulean or ultramarine, you could mix in, for just another shade, you could mix in white with just a touch of one of those blues and change up the petal color a little bit. I am just working with the cobalt right now, so I'm not going to do that, but that would be fun to see. If y'all are enjoying these classes, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We have tons of free tutorials and free classes and different artist resources on there. So check us out at Seabrook Green.
Yeah, you can hit the subscribe button. I think it's right at the bottom of your screen, so you don't miss. We'll do some like mini free tutorials and stuff there.
We're trying our best to really start uploading more content. It's been hard because of my baby. Romy makes it difficult to get anything done. But we're uploading a lot of content there. Okay, so after you have filled in your petals, we're gonna go ahead and work a little bit on our base just with that same color. And all I'm gonna do is just draw a line down the side with that white and the cobalt. Just drawing 2 lines right down the side of it so we can start kind of our reflection of the glass. And then I'm going to wash my brush. Next, we're going to fill in our leaves, and then we're going to take a little break. So hang with me for a little bit longer, and then I'll give you guys a 5-minute break. So I'm going to use sap green right now. Sap green, and who can guess what I'm going to mix it with? Titanium white. Literally my favorite color. So sap green and titanium white, I'm going to use that as the base for my leaves.
Oh, someone said my acrylics look so much transparent, not opaque, and lovely like yours. The flowers look like a mess. Is this because my paints are bad quality, I guess is what they're asking?
No.
Or maybe just mix more white?
Yeah, I think if you mix a little bit more white into it, it will, like I was saying before, the white will help increase the opaqueness so it's not so transparent. And then you have to remember too that you're in the beginning stages of the painting, so give yourself a little bit of grace and try to not be critical, and I have to tell myself this too. I try not to be critical of myself in these early stages of a painting. Just remember you're doing this for the process of painting, and hang in there till the end, because I think as you layer the paint on top of it, you'll start to see that transparency decrease. So don't get hung up on that too much right now. All right, so I mixed sap green with titanium white. And now I'm just gonna fill in my leaves with this color. I did a little bit too much white on there because I don't want it to blend in with my background, so I'm gonna add a little bit more green into it and kind of adjust that color so you can see it a little bit better. This is where I like to leave some of those outlines, like to have a little bit of them peeking out. I don't want to cover all of them up. For me, as I'm painting, I like my painting to show the entire process of painting. So the drawing and the brush strokes and the layers and everything on top of it. So that's like one of the ways that I think you can create energy in a painting. So I'm letting some of that first outline, you can cover it up a little bit on like one side and then let it show on the right side. Going back to that question someone asked, it could just be also that you don't have enough paint on your brush. I keep having to reload my palette with paint. So just make sure you have enough paint on your paintbrush and that it's not like, that could be something that's fighting against you if you're not using enough product. Okay, so as soon as I finish up these 3 leaves right here, we are going to take a 5-minute break so that you can stretch your legs or use the restroom or grab a drink. So what time is it right now, Brandy?
It's 3:01.
3:01, so I'm going to say at 3:05, I'm going to resume teaching. So we will be back at 3:05. But this will just give you a break to do whatever you need to do or use this time to get caught up. Okay. All right, we will be back in 5 minutes. So 3:05, we'll be back. Y'all, I just, during the break, I took a look at my Instagram and I love seeing all of your cute setups. Stephanie, that is so cute how you have that. And pink bows and twinkle toes. I recognize yours. You've taken a few of the classes with me, I think. Jenny, photography. I love Bella designs. So cute. These look awesome.
Yeah, we love seeing them. It feels like we're all together almost. While we're in quarantine, it's nice to do an activity. That's amazing to me that the background is green and white and the leaves are green and white and they're such different colors.
Yep, so that's the difference between a phthalo green and a sap green. All right, so we are going to move on. So we're going to start really layering on top of these flowers, and that's really gonna start bringing them out and forming the shape of them and making them really pop. So I think this is where the magic starts to happen. So we're gonna use our round paintbrush, and I'm using the medium size, so working with the number 8, I think I said it at the beginning, this is my favorite paintbrush. I use it so much. Green for some reason is a really strong pigment, so just make sure you got all of that green off of your brush. You can see I washed it and like it still is on there. That is going to make your pinks look really muddy to have the green on there, so make sure you get that color off. Wash that a little bit better. So I'm going to work with rose, scarlet red, titanium white, and then a little bit of my yellows mixed in. So I think right now, go ahead and have hot pink, red, white, and yellow on hand. I'm going to use the Naples yellow and a lemon yellow for these to make some kind of like corals and different colors. So if you want to have those paints on your canvas, or on your palette, sorry, that is red, hot pink, Naples yellow, lemon yellow, and titanium white. All right, so I'm going to start with this peony, this large one in the center. And for this, we're going to work mostly with our rose and white. If you have hot pink, that would be the color you, or magenta, you could use that. So I'm going to mix some of that with titanium white. And now I'm going to work from dark to light. So I want to have kind of a darker pink, and then I'm going to have it go lighter as I move out from the center. And for these brush strokes, the center being the yellow dot that we put in the middle earlier, for these brush strokes, I like to work in a curved brick pattern. So what I'm going to do is start tighter at the center and then larger as I move outwards, and just draw using the edge of my paintbrush, kind of a little curved line, and then coming underneath it, a little curved line, and then it's kind of like a triangle in the center. And then from there, what I mean by brick pattern is going in between those. So as we move outwards, you're kind of overlapping your brush strokes. So I'm not always like perfectly methodical with that, and I allow some room for like my brush to guide me, but I always kind of do this brick pattern as I draw my petals. So once you get about halfway through this peony, it goes really quick, I'm going to add a little bit more white into my rose color and do lighter brush strokes moving away from the center.
I'll zoom in just so people can see like the...
And I'll demonstrate that again on the other peonies as well. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit more rose to that so you can see it, and I'll just do it again. So rose and white, and I like to keep it darker towards the center. So I did this kind of like triangle pattern, and then just start layering these brick brush strokes. And those can kind of like break out from the edges. And then mix some white into that, and you can have highlights coming to really define those petals.
So it's really darker towards the inside and lighter as we go out.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to do that again on these two peonies. So rose and white. This one got darker than I wanted it to be, so I'm going to mix more white into it this time so it shows up. So this one is more titanium white, so it's going to be lighter. And then I'm actually going to add just a touch of my Naples yellow to that. Give it a little bit of warmth. So that's rose, titanium white, and just a touch of Naples yellow. And then I'm going to do that same kind of brick pattern. So I'll start at the center, and I'm just going to draw like a triangle to start it. And then from there, you go in between the brush strokes and draw another stroke, and then just keep layering it as you move out. So in between those, I'm drawing another stroke. And hopefully you start to see a flower form on your canvas. Okay, so I'm going to do that again on this peony. So it's rose, Naples yellow, and titanium white. I'm going to start at the center and do this like triangle, and then come in between the petals and draw another petal. And it's just kind of a curved line, almost like a smiley face. I'm going to do the same thing here, but this one is, my center is off of the canvas. So I'm just going to draw two lines and then one in between, and kind of have most of that flower off the canvas. Then with that same color, I just want to add a little bit more of a base color. I don't want to paint this Gerber daisy straight white, even though it's going to end up being white. I want to have a little bit of color underneath it to tell a little bit more of a color story there. So I am just adding a few little brush strokes of pink underneath that. And then once I've done that, I'm going to wash my brush off. And then we're going to move and work on these ranunculus. So I'm still using my round paintbrush, and I'm going to mix this time a lemon yellow, so this is really bright, with a touch of my red. I'm using a scarlet red, but if you have primary red on hand, that will work just as good. Or if you don't have red, you could just use your hot pink for this. All right, so that's going to make this beautiful orange color. So for this, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna start with a little triangle. Shoot, you're not really gonna be able to see it very good because that color is not popping. I'll lay this one down first and then you'll really see it once I put a lighter shade on top of it. So if you can't see right now, just bear with me for 1 second. All right, so I'm doing that same little triangle, and then these ones I just want to keep a little bit tighter, and I'm doing that same brick motion, layering them all the way out. So it's the same thing that we did here, but I just am keeping them a little bit tighter together. So a little triangle in the center, and then just kind of layering these petals all the way out to the edge. I'm going to add a little bit of titanium white and do the same thing on top of that so you can really see it. Okay, so for this lighter shade, I'm doing the red, lemon yellow, and titanium white. It's gonna create this really pretty pale orange color. And then I'm gonna go on top of these ranunculus. And like I said, we're just doing a little bit tighter of that brick pattern. So I'm gonna start with this little triangle in the center. And then just work my way outwards. So same thing, a little triangle in the center. And then just work your way out from that. A little bit tighter for the ranunculus. So I'm mixing red, lemon yellow, and titanium white. Right now I'm just kind of toning down that white a little bit. I made it a little bit lighter than I wanted to, so it was really clear to see. So I'm just going on top of it and making it a little bit darker. With that same color, I'm going to add a little bit to the center of the Gerber daisy. And I'm going to draw my first stem, and I'm just going to draw a line kind of diagonal in my base. And I'll layer on top of that. So I'm just doing one of those orange ones in the center of my base. Adding a little bit to the center of my peonies. It's like one dot. Whenever I'm painting, I think I said this at the beginning, but these paintings to me are more about color theory and balance. So if I use like a little bit of orange here, I like to balance it out with another like dash of orange at the top so that there's not just like one place where one color is. Okay. once you have done that, go ahead and wash your brush off really good, and I want to address these greens that are hanging, and then we'll go back to our Gerber daisy after that. So,
Maria Walker said, gorgiso? I think that's a different language, but I think it means gorgeous.
thank you.
Gorgiso. I'm probably saying that wrong.
All right, so I want you to have a few colors on your palette right now. I'm going to have sap green, phthalo green, cobalt blue, titanium white. I'll say that again as I put them out. Sap green, phthalo green, cobalt blue, titanium white. If you have ultramarine blue, you can use that. And actually, you're still going to need a little bit of the red that you have, so I would have a little bit of that on your palette too. Scarlet red or primary red.
That's her attempt at Italiano. Haha.
Oh my word, I love Italy so much.
Speaking of,
I want to go back.
I say that as if I've been there. I've never even been.
How do you feel like you've been? Because I talk about it so much. I love Italy. One of the reasons why my daughter's name is Romy, my husband and I went to Rome 2 years ago, and we just Rome and Florence and the Amalfi Coast. Oh my gosh, what a dream.
I know, wouldn't it be nice to go anywhere right now?
Yeah.
You're stuck in quarantine. Especially Italy.
Okay, so I have sap green, phthalo green, cobalt blue, red, and white, or ultramarine blue, whatever blue you have. All right, so we're going to start with the simplest of them. So these greens that are cascading, I just want to use pretty much straight phthalo green for this, or like a darker green that you have. I'm going to use straight phthalo. I'm going to come down the spine, and then just go on top of those leaves that we already drew at the beginning. And I like to have some of that yellow or orange, whatever color you used for your underpainting, coming through in some places. It literally blowing through the paint today. Can't keep enough on my palette. So I started with that spine, and then I'm just going on top of these leaves that we drew earlier. Starting with the spine. And then with the same color, I'm going to come to this eucalyptus sprig at the top. I'm going to draw the spine and then go on top of it, these little lines. Down here, the eucalyptus sprig. And then I want to add another stem. So if I have my orange one going this way, I'm going to go the opposite way and draw a diagonal line, and then a shorter one on the left. Once you have done that, I'm going to add just a little bit of titanium white to that phthalo green. I forgot to say this, or I can't remember, but I want to add a little bit of yellow, lemon yellow to it as well. So lemon yellow, phthalo green, and white. And that's going to make this like really pretty minty green color. And with that, I want to go on top of my leaves and just put little lines for highlights. So I don't want to cover up all of the dark that I just did. I just want to add another color so that we get even more dimension with those. Just thought this is so cute if moms and daughters are painting these together, because you get like little BFF paintings, like friendship bracelets. This is like the modern day friendship bracelet, friendship paintings. All right, so with that mint green, the lighter green, I just want to add another stem into my vase. So I just did another diagonal line.
That's so interesting. It helps for me to watch the tutorial while taking notes, not to paint. And I can ask questions if I need to. Watch again and paint at my own pace.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that is a great little strategy because it can be hard to try to take it all in at once. And you can always go back and add on top too, and like rewatch.
That's a great idea. Okay, so after I've added in a little bit into my vase with that mint green color, actually I want to balance this out with 3. Just looking at that, it needs one more on that side. I'm going to wash my brush off and get this mint green off, and then we're going to add another layer to our sap green leaves. So go ahead and wash your brush. Okay, so next I'm going to go in with sap green, and for these I want to have like one side darker and one side lighter, and then I'm going to keep the medium base kind of in the center. So I'm going to work with the sap green and add just a tiny touch of titanium white, more to increase the opaqueness than to change the color too much. So I want to keep this darker. And I'm just going to go on one side of the leaf and follow the line of the leaf. I like to think of these as like kind of like the bottom of the leaf, so it kind of creates a shadow. All of these I'm just doing on one side. Same thing here, but this time I'm going to do it more at the top. These ones. sap green still. I'm gonna add in another stem in my vase. So I'm just kind of layering stems on top of each other. Always kind of doing a diagonal line. Then I want to make like a lime green color. So for this, I'm going to add white, sap green, and a touch of the lemon yellow. So white, sap green, and lemon yellow. Just like a really bright yellow that you have. For this, I want to go on the opposite side of where the dark is, and I'm going to add in a line following the line of the leaves. So I'm just kind of highlighting one side and shadowing the other. So we're just adding a little highlight to these leaves. And then with that lime green, I want to add a little bit to the center of my flower. So I added a line around the center of my Gerber daisy. And then 3 dots in the center of my ranunculus. And add just a little bit to your peonies as well, just to balance it out. Then if you have any like awkward spots on your arrangement, you can add in little sprigs of greenery. So I have pretty good coverage everywhere right now. There's like a little gap here. So I'm gonna go in and just do like 3 lines. 2 lines on one side and 1 in the center for some greens. You could do some on this left here. Sometimes I'll do it like in the center. So if I have like a big space, this space turned out a little bit bigger than I'd like them to be. So I'm just gonna do 2 lines and then 1 in the center for greens. Same here, I'll just add in a few little lines for greenery there so it's not so much blue. Then with this same color, I want to come into my vase and I'm just going to go in the center of some of these stems and do a highlight. I'm not doing it on every single stem because that color is pretty intense, but on a few of them I think it is a really lovely accent. Few little bright lime green streaks in my vase. Then after you've done that, go ahead and wash your brush off. Still using my round paintbrush, that medium one right now. And I want to make sure, test it on your paper towel and get all of that green off. And then I'm going to come into my Gerber daisy with straight white, just plain titanium white, and start at the center and then pull out. And I'm just going to do some really clean petals for this flower. You'll see, I think that just looks so much more interesting with the other colors underneath it than if it were just white paint painted on top of a white canvas. It's just not as fun. So you want to be able to, you're not going to cover up all of the pink and the yellow that is underneath there. You're just doing another layer of paint on top of it. If your paint has been sitting there for a little bit, sometimes it'll start to dry, so you might want to add just a little bit of water to make it a little bit more fluid. So next I want to address my anemones a little bit more. So I'm using the titanium white, and you're just going to need a touch of cobalt blue.
So was the outline of the original painting orange, or did you outline only part of this composition? You outlined the whole thing.
I outlined the whole thing.
And it was yellow, right? Or
It was Indian yellow. It's kind of like a medium yellow type color, like a golden yellow. But you could, depending on like the brand of paint that you're using, that color could look different. So it could be an orange, or you could have started with a blue underpainting. So really that doesn't make too much of a difference. But yeah, this one was like a yellow outline that I started with. Just very cheerful is what we're going for. All right, so I have titanium white and cobalt blue, and I want to mix a little bit darker of a shade than what we used to begin with on these anemones. So what I'm going to do is just create shadows closer to the center. So this is still a little bit too, if you test it on your canvas, you can tell if the color is dark enough yet. So I'm adding a little bit more cobalt blue into mine. And I'm going to start at the center, and I really want to create kind of like a lip around the edge of these, so I'm leaving a gap at the top of the petals. So filling out, start at the center and pull out. Make that a little bit darker. all of these petals and just starting at the center and kind of pulling out. Then I want my center to be a little bit darker. So if you have ultramarine blue or Payne's gray or black on hand, you could use that. What I'm gonna do is use cobalt blue mixed with a tiny bit of the phthalo green actually, to just darken it up. You could use cobalt blue mixed with a little bit of the red as well. I think the green is going to get a really nice shade, so I'm going to start with that and we'll see. Painting is all like guess and check. Like you try things and you go back and you adjust. That's how I do it anyways. Okay, so cobalt blue. And I'm just going to add a touch of phthalo green to it. Whoa, that was way too much. Colors can change so dramatically, so quickly. This is going to make a really pretty blue-green color. Still not quite as dark as I want it to be. So what I'm going to do is add just a touch of red. So that ended up being cobalt blue, touch of red, and a touch of phthalo green, and that's going to make it a lot darker. Okay, perfect. So I have this darker color, so I'm going to come into the center of my anemones. Just really like accent that center. So I'm doing kind of like a circle in the middle of them. And then I actually really love that darker color. So I want to really make these flowers pop. So I'm just adding a touch of it in between all my flowers. And I'm not covering up everything that I've already done. I'm just adding to it. I always forget the names of these flowers, but they're just like little, somebody's gonna tell me, I'm sure. If you're a florist, please let me know what they are, but they're just like these really pretty little like balls. So what we're gonna do is draw this a little circle, and I'm gonna add some here, and then maybe in the top as well with this darker navy color. And I'm just drawing a little round circle, and I like them in groups of 3. In real life, they're kind of like a grayish, like a dusty blue color. And I want to add some up here as well. And if you add just a little bit of white to that color, you can kind of add an apostrophe on one side of them to make a highlight. So I want to mix a little bit more of that darker blue, so I'm going to demonstrate that again. So I'm going to use cobalt, a touch of red, and a touch of phthalo green. But mostly cobalt, so you want this to stay in like the blue family. with this, I just want to add a little bit to my vase. So I'm going to add some of it at the top, where these flowers would be casting a shadow. And then a little bit down here in between some of the stems. From there, I'm going to wash my brush off and switch to my really skinny paintbrush. So this is my skinniest round paintbrush. And I'm going to use titanium white. And on my anemones, I want to go in and draw in the center just another line of white. So I'm just going on top of that darker color and adding another layer. So just a skinny line. Whoa. It backed up into my part. And then I want to take the white and add just a little highlight on the tops of these petals. This really starts to make them pop. And then on my peonies, I'm just going to go in and add a tiny white highlight on the edge, so like on the top of my petals, just on one. That outer edge, so like don't go on the inside, go on the outside of it, and that will make it look like the petals are folding. And that's kind of where the light is hitting your petals. Little highlights add so much. And with the white, I'm going to go on my vase, and I want to draw like a straight line down the side. And a water line about 3/4 of the way up. Kind of a reflection, so I always do like a few little lines underneath. If they got a little too intense, I'm going to go back with a little bit of cobalt blue and kind of tone them down. Cobalt blue and white. So like those lines got kind of like stripey. Oh, that's the thing too. If like you're not liking how your stems are looking, and if it's looking really messy and you're just like, I can't do it, sometimes I'll just paint right over it and add the stripes on top of it if I just can't get my stems to look right. You can always change that and do like a striped base if Okay, so I'm just adding a little bit of cobalt blue on top of this and kind of blending it out because it got a little bit intense there. Painting is never like, oh, one line and it's done. You always have to go back and like touch things up and fix it. I could sit there and touch a painting up for hours. I could think it's done and then I have like many hours left to keep touching up.
So true.
With the skinny paintbrush and sap green, I just want to make sure that I go and connect my leaves. One of the last things that I'm going to do is go in and clean up my background. So if your background is like looking perfect, you don't need to do this step. Like you could keep working on your stems or your flowers. But what I'm going to do is mix up more of my background color and just kind of cut in where I need to fill in this white space. Painting is so much just back and forth, back and forth. It's very clearly, very rarely one and done, at least for me.
Nikki said, so beautiful, I'm pumped, I'm tuning in from Sweden.
Oh my word. Okay, so my maiden name is Sepla, and my entire family is Swedish and Finnish, I believe.
Yeah, Sepala is definitely Finnish. But,
Finnish. Okay, well, Scandinavian.
Yeah.
So, hello.
Sweden is cool. I went there
I would love
summers
to.
ago.
I would love to go to Sweden.
Where in Sweden are you tuning in from?
Okay, so I'm mixing up the background color, and this time when we started, if you remember, we used the big paintbrush to do the background. So now I'm using my round paintbrush, and I'm just going to go in and just like cut in on these tighter areas that got left. You can see that's not quite the same. Add a little bit more. So I'm just cleaning up all of my background, going in with if you have even a skinnier paintbrush, you could use your really skinny paintbrush to fill in, but I just want to make sure I don't have any white gaps. This is also, as Brandy would call it, erasing.
Yes.
Or I say editing, like you can go in and start editing. I'm really not that fond of how thick this leaf is looking, so I just want to trim it down a little bit. I think that makes it look like it's curving over so much better. So we're going in with the background color and just erasing.
She said, hey, it's your cousin Nicole. So cool to see her. She's your Gothenburg.
That's hilarious.
I think our cousin Mia actually might live in is it Gothenburg or something? I don't know how to pronounce it.
That is so funny. They're like, oh, who's doing my
Oh, she says living close to Mia.
Oh,
I
my
wonder if she
gosh,
knows
that's
her.
how hilarious. Like, I'm like, oh my word.
Small world that
my
someone
whole
in
family is
Sweden. So
okay,
cool.
so now I'm gonna use this same like background color, and what I like to do is just add in like a big chunk. This is where I have to get brave, but I want to go over my stems a little bit, so like the background color is shining through. So I'm just gonna do a big streak right here. This is my editing. Okay, so once you are happy with your background, the last thing to do is sign it. So what I'm going to do is use my really skinny paintbrush, and I always like to pick a color that's really going to pop against my background. So for this one, I think that I want to use a pink. So I'm going to use my really skinny paintbrush. I've heard, and when I was just getting started and it was like really hard to get that signature down with my skinny paintbrush, I would use the bottom of my paintbrush and dip it in. So you can try that. Another trick is to use a mechanical pencil and extend the lead out and then use that to sign, so you can get a really nice fine signature. So hopefully that helps if you're struggling with getting your signature to look right. So I'm just going to sign this, and I'm using Rose to sign mine.
Veronica said, my cobalt blue isn't bright enough. What can I do to make it pop?
Bright enough. So you're not going to be able to make it, much brighter unless you adding white can sometimes make it muted down, but I would try adding white to it.
What about red? Would red make it?
You're not really going to be able to make the color of the cobalt brighter than it is by mixing it. I'm trying to think of what you could do. If you're not happy with the original shade of blue that you have, the only thing you can really do is like tint it. Like you can, and really like a trick to making a paint look brighter is to pair it next to a more muted down color on your canvas, if that makes sense. So like maybe your cobalt blue isn't looking bright enough because it's next to a really bright yellow. So I would look at your painting and see if maybe that's what you're seeing, because you're only going to be able to do so much to the original pigment. I hope that helps. But definitely try mixing a little bit of white into it and see if that helps it pop a little bit more.
Jody said, I love how this painting turned out. The value of your background is perfect.
Oh, thank you.
I hope to do these more. Really brightens my day. This was a gift to my soul.
I'm so glad to hear it. That just makes me so happy. Well, so that concludes our tutorial today. So I hope that you enjoyed this workshop. I hope that you gained some new techniques and just kind of escaped whatever it is that's going on in your life, or any stressors or things that are going on in the world that we're all trying to forget about. So I hope it was therapeutic and that you will join us next time. So Be sure to tag us in your finished paintings. I think Brandy, will you drop the hashtag one more time in the comments? It's hashtag Seabrook Paint. And we cannot wait to see what y'all have created and share some of them on our Instagram. So we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye guys, thank you.
Bye y'all, thank you so much.